MegaPodTastic. Good morning, MegaPodlings. It's Krazy Joe here. And I'll tell you, there is one video that has been requested time and time again. I said I was going to do it around June when Dark Phoenix hit theaters. And I didn't. I'm sorry. I'm 2 months late with this. But a lot of people have requested that I do my ranking of the Fox X-Men films. All the X-Men movies that were put out under the Fox brand since 2000. And I'm going to do it. We got 12 movies, and I am going to rank them in order of my least favorite to my favorite. I got to say, the Fox X-Men franchise has been a strong franchise. It's been a very strong franchise. There are more hits than misses. I mean, the ones that miss really miss hard, but most of these movies are pretty good. In fact, some people credit the 2000 X-Men with starting our whole comic book movie fanaticism. I disagree. I say it all stems back to 1989's Batman, because it was 1989's Batman that really opened the floodgates. So I attribute it all to Batman in 89. But anyway, let's rank the X-Men movies. All right, coming in dead last at number 12. A movie that I do not like at all. In fact, it might be the only X-Men movie that I can find just about no redeeming qualities in. It's terrible. If it does have a redeeming quality, you know what? It's the performances, because, Hugh Jackman is great in the role, and Liev Schreiber is great as Sabretooth. But other than their performances, there's very little to like about Wolverine. 2009's Wolverine, the first movie in the Wolverine spin-off franchise. This movie is pretty much garbage. I don't even know why I own the Blu-ray. For a long time I didn't. I got it so dirt cheap once that I'm like, alright, I guess the completionist in me will buy that. This film's kind of notable because it's the first appearance of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is in this movie. He's terrible in it. They've changed... Well, it's not Ryan Reynolds' fault, though. They changed the Deadpool character so much that it actually becomes a joke in some of the later Deadpool movies. But this is dead last, number 12. Terrible Wolverine. Okay. Coming in at number 11. Here's a movie that people really, really give a hard time to. And I'll be honest, I don't think it's that bad. There's a huge gap between number 11 and number 12. Because number 12, I don't really think has any redeeming qualities. Number 11, I think, has a lot of redeeming qualities. And that is X-Men The Last Stand. 2006's X-Men The Last Stand. This was X-Men 3. Directed by Brett Ratner, who is a terrible director. Which might be part of the reason I don't think it's that bad. Because when I heard Brett Ratner was taking over, and when I heard that this film was being rushed into production, for those who don't know, Bryan Singer was supposed to make X-Men 3. He made X-Men 1, he made X-Men 2. He was supposed to make X-Men 3. Warner Brothers offered him Superman. So he was like, well, I got time. I got time before X-Men 3. X-Men 3 is not due to start shooting. His plan was he'll shoot Superman, come back, shoot X-Men 3. Well, Fox screwed Bryan Singer. And look, I know we're talking about Bryan Singer. I know Bryan Singer, there's a lot of problems involved with Bryan Singer. I'm not saying Bryan Singer's a good dude, but let's just, because especially in 2006, we didn't know. We didn't know anything about Bryan Singer back then. So just try to put yourself in the mindset that we were in 06, okay? So anyway, Fox decides they're going to screw Bryan Singer over. They don't want him going to compete to a competing studio to direct their superhero movie. So they rushed this into production to basically force Bryan Singer to give up Superman. They were like, no, you can't do Superman. That's shooting the same time as X-Men 3. It wasn't going to, but they moved up the production of X-Men 3 to force Singer's hand and to force Singer to drop Superman. Well, it didn't work. And this is a rush job of a film. So considering that this film was rushed into production basically as an FU to Bryan Singer, I walked into the theater expecting it to be horrendous. I was pleasantly surprised. The Dark Phoenix storyline they try to do in here doesn't work. But the storyline, the subplot about the cure, the mutant cure, I thought that was a pretty good story. And it makes sense, especially for characters like Rogue. If you can't even touch someone without hurting them, and a cure came along, of course you're going to be interested in that. Who wouldn't be? I mean, some of these guys have powers that are pretty cool, like Magneto and Charles, and some of them have powers that are not intrusive in your life, but she can't even touch anyone without possibly killing them. Of course she's going to want that cure. So I thought that was a pretty good subplot. The film's got problems, like there's a terrible joke with the Juggernaut in here that's just horrible. It's based on an internet meme, and it's like, come on, you shouldn't be... Internet memes don't belong in a serious superhero movie, especially considering it's a forgotten meme now, and it's like now, a decade later, there's this weird dated joke in there that nobody's really even going to get today. So yeah, number 11, X-Men 3, The Last Stand. Number 10, the original X-Men from 2000. This is a great film. It was a great film. It's the film that started it all. Like I said, some people credit this with starting the superhero craze at the movies. So why is it so low? Well, it's a low-budget film. It was made with a very shoestring budget. They didn't know it was going to be a huge hit. And it's not that it's a bad movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just they did better. They did better. They got better as they went along. This was a good foundation, but they built upon it, and they got better. So it's low. Number 10, original X-Men. Still a good movie, but they mostly got better. Aside for these two exceptions, they got better. All right, number 9. Here's a film that is unfairly maligned. I quite enjoy it quite a bit, actually. X-Men Apocalypse. Really enjoyed X-Men Apocalypse. Thought it was great. I thought Oscar Isaac was terrific as Apocalypse. He's unrecognizable in the film. Really liked some of the new cast. Alexandra Shipp as Storm. She was very, very good. And Sophie Turner as Jean Grey. Thought she was great. Great casting. I really love the Quicksilver scene in here. The X-Men movies did Quicksilver much better than the Avengers movies did Quicksilver. Like, Quicksilver is in Age of Ultron, but he's so much better in these X-Men movies. And the Quicksilver scene in this one, the sweet dreams are made of these, it's even better than the Quicksilver scene in the previous film, which was Days of Future Past. So yeah, I really liked X-Men Apocalypse. This was a solid movie. It's low, not because it's bad, it's low because there's better. That's all there is to it. I really liked X-Men Apocalypse. Okay, and that was number 9. Coming in at number 8, Deadpool 2. We got the original theatrical cut. We got Once Upon a Deadpool, which was its PG-13 re-release of the two versions. I prefer Once Upon a Deadpool. I think it's funnier. I think the scenes with Fred Savage are hilarious and kind of make the movie. I also love that poster. Look at that poster. Fred Savage and Deadpool riding on Rudolph. That is hysterical. Yeah. Great movie, whichever cut you watch, but this is my favorite cut. Okay, coming in at number 7. Wolverine 2, a.k.a. The Wolverine, the second Wolverine solo movie. And my God, what a step up from Wolverine 1, which was obviously dead last on the list. This one is really good. Hey, look, Stephen Whitty of the Star Ledger calls it the best X-Men yet. Which I disagree with, because there's movies that came out before this that are higher on my list. But this is a good movie. This is a really good movie. This was James Mangold took over the franchise. The first one was directed by Gavin Hood, and Mangold really had the right touch. In fact, it could be stated that he kind of revived the X-Men film franchise in a way, because this film has a post-credit scene that ties directly into one of the better X-Men movies, which is the Days of Future Past. this movie kind of did a lot for the X-Men franchise. It really kind of put it. It was kind of like in a spot where, yes, First Class had come out, and yes, First Class had been well received, but generally speaking, X-Men 3 and the first Wolverine, the X-Men film franchise wasn't in a great spot when this came out. This is kind of the film that turned it all around in many ways. Wolverine 2, number 7. At number 6, I have a movie that I just mentioned. 2011's First Class. X-Men First Class. The one that kind of rebooted things. This is the Deadpool edition where Deadpool... I wish I was in this movie, but I'm not. There's the cover without Deadpool on it. This was a prequel that doesn't quite... The timeline doesn't quite line up. There's things in this prequel that don't really line up with what we knew from X-Men 1, 2, and 3. And I remember coming out of the theater and I said, you know, it doesn't really work if you think about it too much, but it's so good, who cares? Who cares if the continuity is a little bit off? The bottom line is it's so high quality that I'll just go with it. This one was directed by Matthew Vaughn. It was his only X-Men film. He's been very interested in doing a Superman movie. He's been kind of like, his name for years has been rattled around as a possible director for Man of Steel 2. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he said it's not going to happen. He couldn't come to a deal with Warner Brothers, but he probably would have been a good choice for Man of Steel because he did a real good job with X-Men. And again, this was the first X-Men movie to come out after the 1-2 punch of X-Men 3 and Wolverine. So this franchise was kind of dead in the water when this came out. And this was the movie that kind of started to win people over again. But not everyone was sold. And it was kind of Wolverine 2 that was the next step. And it's like, oh wow, two good X-Men movies in a row came out. But First Class was a really good prequel. Well done. In fact, First Class was one of many prequels that came out in the year 2011 that were really good. There was something in the water in 2011. It was the year of good prequels. Because, you know, prequels don't always work. Prequels don't always work. And I can think of 3 good prequels that came out in 2011. X-Men First Class being one. The Rise... Was it Rise of the Planet of the Apes? It was Rise, then Dawn, then War, right? Yeah, so it was Rise. Rise of the Planet of the Apes 2011, which was a Planet of the Apes prequel. And then we got the weirdly titled prequel to John Carpenter's The Thing, which was also called The Thing. Good movie, terrible title, but the weirdly titled prequel to The Thing, X-Men First Class, and Rise of the Planet of the Apes all hit in 2011. So 2011 was the year of good prequels. But anyway, First Class is number 6 on my list. All right, coming in at number 5 on my countdown of worst to best Fox X-Men movies, the first Deadpool. The first Deadpool. This was great. This was terrific. So much fun. So funny. I mean, the second one's great too, but there's no topping this original one. We'd never quite seen anything like it. This holds up. This holds up. This number 5. And it's kind of a miracle this movie got made. After Ryan Reynolds' performance as Deadpool in Wolverine, and it was so poorly received, his performance in Wolverine, that the fact that the studio was brave enough to give this guy another go, I think the fans all knew it would work. Nobody ever blamed Ryan Reynolds for Wolverine. All the fans were always, you had a terrible script. You had a terrible script. This had nothing to do with Ryan Reynolds. So I think we all kind of wanted to see him get another shot. But you know how movie studios are. It's kind of a miracle he got that other shot. So this film is probably a film that really shouldn't exist, if we're being honest, because the fact that he got another shot to play Deadpool, it's the kind of thing that doesn't always happen in Hollywood. And it wouldn't have been surprising if this movie didn't happen. So the fact that it did happen, the fact that this exists, is kind of a shock. And it's such a great movie. Number 5, Deadpool. Okay, coming in at number 4. It's not yet on Blu-ray, so I don't have a physical copy, but Dark Phoenix, one of the, again, very unfairly maligned films in this franchise. It's a redo of the Dark Phoenix storyline that they tried to tackle in The Last Stand and failed. Do much better job of it the second time around. Again, Sophie Turner's great as Jean Grey. There's not nearly enough of Quicksilver in it. It needs more Quicksilver. But and there are a couple nitpicks, like these guys should, especially, like Eric, because it's set in the 90s, and we know that in the year 2000, Magneto's an old man. Ian McKellen. He's an old man in 2000. And then we get to the early 90s, and he looks like Michael Fassbender. Come on, these guys have to age. Just get some gray spray paint. Spray his hair gray. I don't know. Make him look like he aged a little bit, at least. So yeah, there are nitpicks. But ultimately, Dark Phoenix is not a bad movie. I don't know why this movie got such a bad rap. And to be honest, most people I know who saw the movie walked out and liked it. It ranged from, that was great, to, that was better than I expected. That was probably the most mild response I heard, was people saying, it was better than I expected. I thought it was going to be terrible. It wasn't terrible. And then I heard people who said, I thought it was great. I thought it was great. I think it's one of the better XMen movies, which is why it's number 4 on my list. It's a shame that people were so quick to trash it, because I don't think it deserves it. It's good. And I've already pre-ordered the Blu-ray, so I don't have the Blu-ray yet, but I will. All right, coming in at number 3. What a difference. What a difference some time can make, because the first film in this spin-off franchise was dead last, and the third film in this franchise is sitting pretty close to the top of my list. Number 3 is Logan. Wolverine 3, the second sequel to 2009's Wolverine, which was number 12 on my list. We got James Mangold, who did Wolverine 2, came back to do Logan. This one's kind of a Western. It's set in the future. And it's the final performances of Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart as Wolverine and Professor X. And they're great in it. They're both great in it. It's rated R, which is, it's the first film in the X-Men franchise proper to be rated R, because prior to this only the Deadpool films did, and they're kind of, the continuity in them, they're not really part of the direct X-Men franchise, right? Everything about this movie works. Everything about it works. And this Blu-ray contains Logan Noir, the black and white version. And I watched it. It's really cool in black and white. So if you get the Blu-ray, I highly recommend checking out Logan Noir. But yeah, great movie. Number 3, Logan. Coming in at number 2 is number 2, X-Men 2 from 2003. Terrific movie. It was the second film in the franchise, and it's still one of the best. I think the only thing wrong with this film is it leaves such a big tease for a Dark Phoenix movie, and then everybody left the theater excited, like, oh yeah, we're going to get Dark Phoenix, and then we got the Last Stand, which did not do the Dark Phoenix story any justice at all. But X-Men 2, X-Men United is a great follow-up. Great follow-up to the 2000 original, and a better film. And one of the highlights in this film is Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler's a great character. He's really well handled in this. I don't know why he didn't come back for part 3. He should have been there. He should have been there. But yeah, this is just about as good as it gets. And the only reason it's not as good as it gets is because there's a better film sitting at number 1. Number 1 best Fox X-Men movie is Days of Future Past. Holy God, this movie is perfect. This is a perfect film. This movie is on a par with anything the MCU put out. This could stand up to Avengers. Like, it's that good. This is a movie that combines both the prequel cast with the original cast, because we have characters going back through time. So it starts off in the future where we see the X-Men from 1, 2, and 3. Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen as Magneto, Kelsey Grammer as Beast, and Anna Paquin as Rogue. And they're all there. Iceman. And Wolverine travels back through time, where he goes back to the 70s, and he meets the cast of X-Men First Class. This is great. This is a great film. It's a perfect superhero movie. When Disney takes over the Fox X-Men franchise and starts doing MCU X-Men movies, they will be hard-pressed to make one better than this. They really will. This is really good. So there you go. That is my ranking of the X-Men films, because you demanded it. I know people really like ranking videos. So I got some more in the pipeline. I got a few ideas. And we'll do a few more of these, because, you know, I know people like to see them, and they're kind of fun to do. So there you go. The ranking of the Fox X-Men movies. Thank you for watching, and keep wearing those pajamas.
Keep wearing those pajamas with the plastic feet. Keep wearing those pajamas. Tell everyone you meet. Keep wearing those pajamas with the back door flap. Keep wearing those pajamas. Don't open, it's a trap. Oh no, it's a trap. Some people call them PJs, some people call them jammies. They can come embroidered with big money and no whammies. They can have 100 tiny commander pajamas, but no matter how they look, just keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep wearing those pajamas. I know we're having fun. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now the song is done.